Let's talk about settlement. There's a lot of discussion about settlement in the Lively Baldoni cases for good reason. So here's just some key things about settlement to keep in mind. Number one, settlement can happen at any time. You can settle a case from before it was filed, at any point along the way, all the way up to in the middle of a trial, you can settle a case. You can settle a case all the way up through and until there's an actual decision in court. And you can even actually settle a case after that if somebody decides that they want to appeal. So settlement is one of those things that's always on the table. In big cases that are really, really expensive, it's almost always being discussed behind the scenes. Folks are always thinking, what am I trying to get out of this? Which leads me to number two. And this is something that is really important to know about settlement. You can get things through settlement as a litigant that you could never get in court. Some people have speculated that this litigation is actually about the rights to one of the other books, maybe. But when you settle, you can get things that a court could never give you. A civil court can give you money. It can give you compensation. Sometimes it can give you injunctions, meaning stopping behavior. No one's asked for that at this point. So basically what they're trying to get is money and the right to say that they won. In a settlement, you could ask for the moon. It's the Wild West in settlement discussions. So you could say, I want a written apology. I want you to go on social media and say that you apologize for sexually harassing me. I want you to take out a full-page ad in the New York Times saying that you were wrong. New York Times, I want you to print a retraction of your article. I want your firstborn child. I want the rights to the other book. You can ask for anything in settlement because you are not bound by what you've asked for in the lawsuit. Now, having asked for something in the lawsuit is your leverage to get the settlement. Like, what if I get what I want, right? And both sides are kind of talking amongst themselves about, is it worth it to go forward or is it worth it to get what we can get? But just so you know, settlement can include everything. People can get, settlement can include you have to fire this person. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Number two, settlements can include more than one case. So there could be a global settlement that settles Lively's case, Baldoni's case, and even the PR people's case, if that's something they really wanted to do. You can settle multiple cases at once. You can settle all of the cases at once. Sometimes if there's multiple pieces of litigation about a particular issue, one party will say, I'm not engaging in settlement about one case. I'm only going to talk settlement if we are talking about them all. So that could also be going on. It could be individual case settlements and also global case settlements. Next thing is that settlement discussions are a type of evidence that is never admissible in court. So there are certain types of evidence that the law has deemed just inadmissible from go. Things like, we all know attorney-client privilege, right? What you say to your attorney in getting legal advice can never be admissible in court. Settlement discussions are the same way, right? Because if you were to allow people to use in court things they say during settlement discussions, nobody would engage in settlement discussions. So they could engage in settlement discussions where people completely give up the game and it not be able to be used against them in court, right? So Blake Lively could walk in and be like, yeah, I made the whole thing up and I don't really give a shit because I'm pissed off at you and I want that book. Or Justin Lively could go into a settlement discussion, or his lawyer could go into a settlement discussion. Either one can participate and could say, yeah, I absolutely harassed you. And by the way, I think that you're ugly and you'll never get this book out of my cold dead hands. And that wouldn't be admissible in court. The last thing I will say about settlement is that it allows folks to keep things private. Not just what I mentioned before, but the actual results of settlement private. So unless you are a public institution and you're using public money like a government or something like that, you can just put a gag clause into a settlement order or settlement agreement that says, nobody talk about this. Nobody tell anybody what happened. Nobody tell anybody how much money they they gave the other or what the conditions were or any of that stuff. Now, obviously, if the rights to one of these movies changes hands, we'll know. But in terms of what money changes hands, they can definitely keep that private. If I had to guess, I'm guessing that settlement discussions have been going on since before we even knew that these lawsuits existed. But it also seems from the things that have been put in their complaints that this could be a holy war. And a holy war is something that litigators say when you've got people who hate each other so much and are so pissed off that they would rather go bankrupt paying lawyers than admit that they did anything wrong or let this person have an inch. Litigators love holy wars because that's how we make money. But it's hard to tell if that's what this is. Sometimes people think they're in a holy war and then they get litigation fatigue and you get tired of talking about this shit every day and you get tired of having your deposition taken and having to find emails and you give it. So time will tell. But for purposes of articles that you're reading and speculation that people are doing about whether they are settling this case and what that would mean, that's just a few pieces of information for you. If you have questions, let me know.